Welcome to Ginny's, where East meets West, and a slice of Eastern philosophy becomes a part of Western thinking. I'm your host, Ginny Gong. My first guest is an independent filmmaker involved in print and broadcast production since 1970. His credits encompass more than 250 films and videos, and his recognitions include national awards such as the Emmy. He is the producer of Pearls, the first PBS series on Asians in America, and of An Untold Triumph, his most recent project due to premiere. Join me in welcoming and saluting one of the Asian American community's finest creators, Noel Sonny Izan. Sonny, welcome.
Thank you, Jenny.
What an impressive career, and you're still going strong. What does being an independent filmmaker mean?
Well, it means starving most of the time.
You look pretty well fed.
Well, occasionally you get lucky. It means picking projects that you want to do, and sometimes, of course, being hired by people to do their projects, but essentially working from film to film, video to video. And every now and then you get lucky and you get real interesting subject matter that you can really sink your teeth into. Sometimes it's just bread and butter stuff, but you got to do what you got to do to make ends meet.
So there's certainly a survival element in all of this.
There's quite a bit of a survival element because there's no predicting how many films you'll get in a row. Sometimes it's what we call feast or famine. Sometimes you're so busy you can't even go home to take a shower. Other times you're on the phone calling up saying, hey, what's happening? You know, we don't have any work going on, kind of thing. But it's always easier to do it on your own, because when you have a staff of 20 or 30 people, it gets to be scary when work gets lean and you're looking at a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Right, right. How does being an Asian American, did that have any impact in terms of being an independent filmmaker? I
think it had quite a bit of an impact. Being an immigrant, I'm a first-generation immigrant. I came to the U.S. when I was, I guess, about 18, 19.
From?
From the Philippines, from Manila. And being an immigrant, I think it gives you a special perspective, because even though you can operate in the society and be very fluid in it, there's always a part of you that's outside looking in, and it gives you the role of observer. And so it helped quite a bit in the sense that I grew up with a whole totally different culture from what I found here in America, but yet was able to integrate it. So that's been part of my journey, has been trying to sort of cull from both cultures and see what works from both.
So did you ever think of going in a whole different direction, something more commercial, more lucrative, like a suspense thriller or a comedy or something like that?
I think most filmmakers do have fantasies about doing a Hollywood film, but it's so far out there in terms of accessibility and in terms of budgets. They call $12 million a low-budget feature.
Right.
And I've been trying to put together a documentary for the past 5 or 6 years, trying to raise $500,000. So, but I guess it's possible if you meet the right people and make the right connections that you can do that. It's something I've sort of toyed around with it, but it would still have to tie in for me into some historical aspects.
I know that you're a very principled person, and when you choose your projects, you're very careful as to, which things you're going to invest your time and effort into. You mentioned the historical aspect. What else is a factor in your deciding whether or not you're going to do that project?
I think one of the guiding principles for me has been that, again, being an immigrant and knowing that history so often is point of view, I try to get those projects where we can tell another point of view, perhaps from an Asian American perspective, to add to the volume of knowledge, because oftentimes history tends to be very Anglo-centric or Eurocentric, and oftentimes the Asian point of view is forgotten or totally omitted. And so I try to work on those things that will bring a fresh perspective, or at least add to the perspective.
Right. And in fact, speaking about the Asian point of view, back in the 1970s, when just the thought of Asian Americans weren't even on the radar, you worked on this project, Pearls. Let's talk a little bit about that.
It was an interesting project. In fact, we actually had to get legislation into play before we could get funding for it, because we originally applied to the then Office of Education
Okay.
for some funding. They had some monies for television programs for minorities, but Asian American was not in the language at the time.
We weren't considered a minority?
Well,
or?
we weren't even considered. So,
I was around, you know, in 1970.
oh, I know. And so we applied one year. We got rejected. It says that, you know, there's no language that allows you to be eligible for it. So we basically campaigned and had it changed. So it wasn't until the following year when they were able to add, it was Asian Americans into the language, that we were able to get funding for Pearls, which is a